New norms are always being established doing gig economy work, but they're never better than the ones that were set before. It is Sunday, June 2nd, 2024, and I'm out here because I gotta be out here. Gotta pay the rents. And I say rents plural because I got the geezer compound rent to pay and the office rent. But I'm gonna go through some random thoughts for today. And I'm starting off with doing a last mile gig delivery opportunity. 3 sheets of plywood that's paying $35 fucking dollars. But that seems to be the new norm with a lot of the last mile gig delivery apps. In fact, that's really the theme. If you've checked out the teaser, what is the new norm? The new norm, it appears to be doing more for less. Doesn't it sound familiar? It almost sounds like when you're on a W-2. You're in a job situation where they're trying to get more, they're trying to extract more work out of you and not pay you for that work. The difference is that when you're an independent contractor, 1099, you realize that, okay, you're not there as an employee, you're punching in the clock and you're having to account for your time on the clock. When you're an independent contractor, it's an agreed upon rate for whatever the task is to be performed. But then it makes you realize that, hey, okay, somebody's trying to make money. You're trying to make money, they're trying to make money, but you always feel as if the other side is always trying to make more, or they're trying to hold back to make more. Now, I understand that somebody's got to be in business in order for you to have the opportunities. And I guess it's a fine line when you think about it. I try to think on the side as well of the gig apps that we deal with, or even the brokers that I've dealt with, or even the people that I've dealt with for cash opportunities with the cash game. But there's always this thing about something for nothing or something for as little as possible to be paid. Now, recently, I've had work done on my van, front end work. In fact, it cost me altogether somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,400. In fact, it did. It was like $1,400 when it was all said and done. First, there was a control arm that had to be replaced. That was $350. Then there was the main work, ball joints and springs or struts. That was $1,000 plus brakes. The guy didn't tell me that he charged me for the brakes. He said he was going to do the brakes, but then he didn't. What he didn't say was that he was charging me for the brakes, so that was another $30. And then on Friday, had to go back for a second front end alignment, and then he charged me $70 for the front end alignment that really I should not have been charged for. But given the situation and the parameters of how all the work was done, I'm probably about $500, maybe $600 ahead on all this stuff. So $1,400 as opposed to paying $2,100. You pick and choose your battles. Now, a lot of that was agreed upon between me and this guy. So I wasn't looking for something for nothing. That's all what I'm getting at. I realized that, hey, person's got to make money as well. The question is somebody trying to take advantage of me? And I think that's the talk, at least I've had among other drivers, when we deal with these apps, when we deal with individuals, when we deal with brokers. And the frustrating part is that when you see people who go along with it by, and as I've called them, thirsties, they do stuff at numbers that make no fucking sense and drives down the market to where it's not even a race to zero, it's a dive to zero, it's a nosedive to zero. So I'm here at the store, about to go inside and pick up these pieces of plywood, and I'm going to resume the conversation. So it's said that competition is good because it fosters efficiency of a marketplace. Take it for what it's worth. I'm not an economist, but if you want to know a true theory about things, check out Mike Drop Barbecue. He is an accountant. He used to be a corporate accountant, and so that was a part of his studies in his formal background. But supposedly competition brings about that efficiency because, at least to the consumer, supposedly with competition, you're going to get the best work for possibly the cheapest price possible. And I'm repeating, I know that I made a redundancy on the word possibly or possible, but that is in theory what competition is supposed to do. As independent contractors, we have a problem with competition to the extent where the marketplace is deluged. Okay, it's deluged, and that deluge is a mix of people who may not have any business sense, who are just out there to be out there, and it fucks it up for everybody. I've talked about this enough. I've got segments of the Gig Geezer on that about thirst. Well, I set all that up to say, when I picked up these sheets of wood, had a little banter with the staff people. In fact, I've done it the last couple pickups that I've had at this place, where I said, hey, I should have came up here in that vehicle over there and said, hey man, you can't deny me the chance of making money. I'm here to pick them up. And they're like, no man, we can't do that. No. Come back with the right vehicle. All that is to say, one of the reasons why we're not making what we made a year ago on these last mile gig delivery apps is the aggregator. I'm not naming names. I've yet to name names, but I've mentioned this a number of times already recently. The aggregator who disperses these opportunities out among the apps, and when you see certain last mile gig delivery apps bounce among the apps, they send it out basically to the app that pays the least first, and they give them chance after chance after chance. In fact, not apps. There's like about 3 of them in the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area that they'll bounce around first before they may end up at the apps that are likely to pay. But even among the apps that are likely to pay, they have dropped their rates by as much as 80% just to adhere to the aggregators' wishes of, if you want to see opportunities, you're going to have to do this. So, if I were to name names, what happens is that these people are saying, man, look, we see this too many times during the course of a day, where someone will show up for like 3 pieces of plywood, and they're in a Kia Soul, and that shit can't fit in there. But they'll argue them down, saying, hey, look, man, you can't. I'm leaving with these. I'm leaving with these motherfuckers. Okay. Don't matter that all they see is like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to make money on this app. That's all I'm looking at. Okay. And there's a couple of apps that are like that. Then you have another app that's among the last mile apps. I've talked about their asses. Again, you can fill in the blanks. All right. You can fill in the blanks. That's their MO. Cheap labor. Cheap fucking labor. They want you to move 2,000 pounds, 2,500 pounds for $42. Drive 8 miles, 10 miles, 40 miles, whatever. That's their MO. And I've talked about their asses enough. So, what is the new norm? What I've also seen is drop in the volume and quality of opportunities. I've mentioned this combination of words earlier in the year, but I've seen another drop in the volume and I've seen another drop in the volume and quality of opportunities. I admit that in this segment of the Gig Geezer that I may have been insulated by them because of some timely brokered opportunities and some timely last mile gig delivery opportunities that came my way. But over the past 3 weeks, I've been exposed, man. I've been exposed. And when I speak of the new norm, is the new norm for me then earning less than 2 G's a week? Is my new norm now maybe hitting 1,500, maybe getting to 1,700? Like today, this week. This is the third consecutive week that I have not reached $2,000. Third consecutive week. I entered today at $1,497. This opportunity puts me over 1,500. If the dominoes fall right for me, because that's about the best way I can describe it. If the dominoes fall right for me today, I may get to 1,700. You're telling me that, geezer, if you make $200+ today, the dominoes may have to fall right for you? Yes. This is what I've been dealing with the last few weeks. Now, of course, I've mentioned about the van, and I lost some time and the potential of earnings with the van. And I can't get around that, and I'm not making any excuses. But I go back to the market and how the market has not been favorable for me, be it the brokered opportunities, be it the last mile gig delivery apps. Well, the gig food apps, the only thing I can talk of is that I've not seen, I rarely see any catering opportunities on the deliver that app. For whatever reason, I guess the fact that I don't accept all those bottom feeder orders like on Delivered, those $20 orders, $30 order offers with $600 worth of food, I pass on those. I've told the algorithm that I guess I'm not interested. I guess that's what's happened. But then again, I've got other thoughts on that as well. I really do. What I'm getting at is on the catering apps, I've seen a spate of opportunities. I may see 10 that come across my screen in a month. How many do I end up accepting? Maybe half. So I don't do as many catering opportunities because I've not seen the quality and volume of opportunities that would entice me to accept them and complete them. So when you add all those factors, well, quite naturally, you're not going to make that type of money. I mentioned about the brokered opportunities. Hey, look, man. I mean, I'm not going to put myself on the limb. For example, as I may have been, if memory serves me correct, I described a brokered opportunity in which it was going from Charleston to the Atlanta area. And the broker was trying to get me to be at around 400, driving 300 miles. And I'm like, shit, I ain't doing that. And this is a broker that I deal with on. I've completed a lot of unloads for them. I asked for 525, and I felt that I was being more than fair at 525 because that come out to about $1.70 a mile. But I wasn't gonna do 300 for $400. No. I wasn't. But then you have other brokers, they're looking to be even lower than that. 350, 325, 300, maybe even less if they can get somebody who will volunteer to do it for less. Yeah. Now, while it's easy to talk about thirsties, it's easy to talk about these apps that are at least playing the shell game by sending you to apps that are likely to pay the least money first and hoping that somebody will swipe it up before it reaches the apps that are likely to pay more. You also got to look at it in these terms. I've been in the gig economy. I've been active in the gig economy since September 2016. I've mentioned that multiple times. It's on the information section of the Gig Geezer channel. And what I've noticed, which has been very consistent, can you tell me any app that you've been on for any significant period of time in which they have raised the base pay or raised the rates for a driver? What you see is, and this is what's often consistent, the apps come in paying, and I guess you can say enticing us to complete orders on their apps by paying us whatever money that they're paying. An app comes in, or one app comes into the market. Let's say, like Roadie. I remember my very first couple of opportunities on Roadie were airport runs from Columbia Airport to Florence, and I did a number of them, and they paid oftentimes with anywhere between $68 and $80, maybe $84. Those same runs now, 6 years later, may go for $40. Now, then you have another app that comes in that tries to compete for the same stuff. And they show where, hey, we'll pay you, let's say they pay $75 starting out. But over time, their numbers drop as well. You could say it's because of competition, or you could say that what it is that they realize that, hey, if we are to still stay in business, we've got to harness our costs. The cost is labor, the human factor. And I think that is very a very accurate thing to say about these last mile gig delivery apps. When these apps, a number of them debuted in South Carolina last year, it was not uncommon to see opportunities that paid $200-$300. Some of the same stuff that I've done a year later. I give a good example. In fact, I'm kind of ashamed to talk about it though, but last year I dropped off a pallet of mulch to a guy, and that opportunity paid like over $200. A year later, I drop off a hot water heater and 20 bags of mulch, and it paid a fraction of what I earned last year. Now you say, Geezer, why in the fuck did you even take it? That's on me. I took it because I also had two other opportunities stacked together on that app. And so I'm looking at the totality of things, and I played the volume game. And given that I started late in the day, I couldn't go around at zero. So that is a borderline thirst play. But it turned out that I earned over, $250. And this happened on Friday, May 31st, 2024. But again, look back. Tell me any app that it has paid its drivers more over time. If anything, the app has paid the driver less and a fraction of what they paid in the beginning. It goes with rideshare, it goes with gig food delivery apps, it's going with these last mile gig delivery apps. And I guess it's a musical chair game that we're playing. So is the musical chairs of gig apps a new norm, or is it nothing new? I'll leave that to you. Now, last month, I also had my least productive month since April 2023. I finished last month, May 2024, having earned just over $8,800. In fact, if memory serves me correct, the exact number is like $8,806. That's a drop off from $10,290 from April. It's even a drop off from March, in which I earned $9,865. And in February, I really overperformed and earned $11,200. But when you compare over the course of since July of last year, 2023, this is my least productive month. And again, there's a couple of factors. There's a couple of factors out there that dealt with the front end and all. But again, it goes back to the lack of volume and quality of opportunities. I keep talking about that, and so I have to ask myself: is it a new norm? When I tried to put together this segment, this is actually my third attempt. I thought about calling it a crossroad. Have I reached a crossroad? But I'm having to say, is this my new reality? Is this my new norm? And if this is, what do I do next? And this may be the case for a lot of you out there. What do you do next? I don't have that answer. I just don't. I spent a lot of sleepless fucking nights, man, trying to figure this shit out. And I don't know if I can figure it out. You know, I want to do more with the cash game. But the cash game is kind of like as being an insurance agent. You're constantly having to, as an insurance agent, you have to constantly prospect for business. And in the process of prospecting for business, the business is not going to come just like that. It takes time. It takes time, and people got to be ready and willing to do it. Now, once you cultivate that business, over time, and your name is out there, people will call upon you. I know of someone. I've mentioned this person, but I know of someone. He has that. He has that going for him. He has options. That's one of his options. His cash game, and he was able to cultivate it over time. I would say over the course of a couple of years. Do you have a couple of years to really build up that type of business? When I built up my agency doing primarily life and health, when I was doing primarily group business, in which I put in their group health and then their group ancillary products like Aflac, vision, dental, and group life, and maybe even group disability. It took me 2 years. It took me almost 2 years to get to a point where I had consistent money coming in. So those are 2 very lean years. Do you have, I'm not going to say it's going to take 2 years though, but it's going to take some time. And do you have that type of time, money set aside to withstand those lean times? What's very attractive about gig food delivery, gig last mile delivery, and even brokered opportunities is that there's that immediate hit of money that comes in. With gig food delivery work, primarily on-demand stuff, the DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and Instacart, that's money that you can access that same day. So that contributes to your cash flow. With the gig last mile delivery apps, I believe Roadie allows for you to cash out the same day, but most of the other apps, it's within 2 days to a week. So you kind of have to work around that. You have to work around that. But if you put together the right combination of work, you should always see money dropping into your checking account almost on a daily basis. Even with brokered opportunities, with factoring, depending on what you do, you're likely to see your money within 2 business days. So that's why so a good example, if I were to do a run from like Charleston back to the Columbia area, if I get that in the morning, if I pick up at like 9-10 o'clock, I know I'm gonna more than likely drop off before noon. And if I submit that invoice by noon, I'll see that money the next morning, okay? But if that's not the case, let's say I do an Atlanta run, then if I do it on Monday, if I do the Atlanta run on Monday, I know by Wednesday I'll see that money in my checking account. That's the way that works. So there's that attractiveness of the gig economy for that very reason. And so the cash game almost becomes your side money as you try to build it up. And that has been the way I've gone about in trying to build up the cash game for whatever it's worth. So I'm closing out this segment of the Gig Geezer with another round of final geezer thoughts. And what came to mind was really, there was a comment that someone made about how a guy felt that certain content creators have been motivation for them and giving them hope, particularly for those like him who had lost their job, and showing that, hey, there's a way to make some money, make some decent money in place of your job, the thing that you really want, the thing that you've been known to do. I think about when I think about things like that. I it's nice then that certain content creators have provided motivation for people to also get away from the W2 world. Of course, the thing is, I'm going to reiterate, is that when you're doing 1099, it's hero to zero every single day. You can't get around that. It's hero to zero every single day, and that is your motivation, and also something that really scares the bejesus out of you every single day, that, hey, you don't want to come home with a fucking zero. At least that's my motivation. I know that I have had a day. There's this segment of the Gig Geezer where I did have a zero production day, but that is one of my motivations. Of course, what got me into the gig economy was the motivation of trying to make extra money to help with my daughter who was going through her undergrad. She was actually in her second year of junior college, and then the next semester she transferred to a 4-year school. But all that time while she was in school, when she worked towards her undergrad, and then her master's, and then starting out with her doctoral program, which she only put a year and a half. The gig economy has always put me in a position to be able to do something, and I often jokingly say that, she was on the payroll for a good while. But all that is to say, I'm talking about the new norms. The new norms, man. For me, is weeks of 1,500, 1,600, 1,700 now my new norm? I don't know. Of course, I do remember there was a time where 15, 16, 1,700 was a great week, was like banner week, record weeks. But because you set certain expectations, or you begin to have certain amount of proficiency and productivity, that's not what you're aiming for. That's not what you're pushing yourself for on a consistent basis. So this is what I did today. This is what I did for this week. I really don't have any. I just don't know where to really kind of process things at this juncture. And I guess my way of processing it is talking about how this is the new norm that I'm looking at. Who knows? I may turn around and who knows? I may turn around and overperform like I did in February during the month of June of this year, 2024. Then again, I may just have a good run of opportunities that come my way again. One content creator says that there's a lot of unpredictability when you're 1099, and there's truth. Again, I say you're a hero. You go from hero to zero every single day. Can you deal with the unpredictability of where your money's going to come in on a daily and weekly basis? You talk about trying to get a contract. Well, contracts expire. Contracts terminate. So just when you think you've got a really good situation, you may not have a contract the next day. You may not have that route the next day. The routes are, I mean, I'm not talking down on somebody, but that's a reality that I acknowledge for myself. And again, I mentioned in this segment, dedicated routes versus on demand. I've seen a lot of route situations of late. Most of them, at least the ones that I've seen, they offer pay somewhere between $900 and $1,250 a week. That's typically the range that I often see. Well, here I am talking about 1,700. Is that my new norm? And I'm almost talking as if 1,700 is an absolute failure now. But at the same time, I'll take my chances with the 1700 than the 1250 and having to show up every single day. And whether I want to or not, do the same thing. In fact, that's what one content creator, CJ mentioned about. There's what happens is the repetition of doing that gets boring, and so you kind of like to be challenged. And definitely, if you do 1099 work, you will be challenged. So with that, that's all I have to share for this segment of the Gig Geezer. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.